Definitely. And it would be really good to see that from her. So remind us when that documentary is on.
I think it's so her birthday is next week, and it will be in conjunction with the birthday. And I will try and find out when it is going to air internationally as well, because ITV have done it, and it will no doubt they'll be selling the rights across the world as well.
Definitely. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing that. I love these kind of fly on the wall things. And actually, from the trailer, I noticed. Do you remember you mentioned it on the podcast a few weeks ago when she popped into a shop and bought a Jubilee mug? They've got that clip in there.
Well, she's got a collection of them.
Exactly.
It's extraordinary.
Which is great.
Absolutely bizarre.
Speaking about Camilla's work and what she's been up to, Charles and Camilla have been in Wales, haven't they?
Yes, well, we're on Wednesday today, so they are in the middle of a 3-day visit, which is it's a jam-packed schedule, as we've come to expect from them. Yesterday, they were visiting the BBC, which Camilla, I mean, we do know that she's, I think she does this purposefully, because she knows that the journalists are there. She knows exactly what's going to get picked up. And another little nugget, because we know that she loves sort of crime fiction. She was speaking to the presenters of the Crime Watch show, which is a big show here in the UK, which goes...
Oh, brilliant.
And she was telling them how she loves watching the show and listening about all the sort of crimes that have been committed all throughout the UK, how the police officers and the detectives go about fighting crime. So again, another incredible window into her world. And if you've never seen Crime Watch, it's sort of like, how would you describe it? It's sort of like a detective show, but presented by TV presenters on the BBC.
Well, it's real stories, isn't it?
It's real life.
Yeah. So it's trying to hunt down, and find criminals in real life, and
absolutely
reenact scenes to hopefully trigger people's memories of, crimes that police are struggling to catch people for. So it's a great programme.
So she said confessed she was a big fan of the show. Also visiting the BBC in Wales, the sort of news centre in Cardiff as well. What else have they been doing? Today they are going to be visiting the National Literary Trust. As mentioned, Camilla has really taken on board this. One of the big pillars of her work is children's literacy. Not only children's literacy across the board, I would say, but mainly focused on kids and about trying to get them to read and develop good habits. Also going to be speaking to another domestic violence group called RISE, which is, again, a huge pillar of her work, as we've discussed earlier. And Prince of Wales is going to be visiting the Pembrokeshire coast. And if you have never been to the Pembrokeshire coast...
Oh, I haven't.
Oh, my gosh. I mean, we spent about just short of 2 weeks a couple of years ago, sort of driving all around the Pembrokeshire coast, and it is absolutely stunning. So it's the 200th anniversary of the Coast Guard in Wales, and Charles is going to be visiting some of the national parks out there, walking some of the Wales coast path, which is absolutely glorious. Hopefully the weather will be quite nice, as it's not too bad today.
Yeah, it's meant to be, isn't it?
Yeah, jam-packed level of events. So tomorrow will be the last day, and going out to visit community leaders, checking on how people are doing sort of post-COVID with the COVID recovery. So I'm sure the people of Wales will be out with force to greet them.
Lovely. And Princess Anne, she's been in Northern Ireland, hasn't she? She went to the St John's Ambulance Cadets 100th anniversary, which looks good. And she also did a garden party at Hillsborough Castle. So lovely photos of her kind of in all her uniform and trying lots of fun things, which is exciting. And also the Queen's in Sandringham, isn't she?
Yeah, she's taking a little break, definitely. I think this is... the Royals normally do take August off, so I think there's it seems as though there's quite a lot of activity in the devolved nations as well. As we said, Prince Charles and Camilla visiting Wales today, as you just mentioned. Princess Anne has been out and about, and before the sort of recess, as you were, I think that the Queen's gone to Sandringham to check out the big house, check out what's been doing there, check on the farm. She'll be staying at Wood Farm, I understand, which is obviously Prince Philip's former abode. And then imagine we'll get to see the Royals up in Scotland. Well, we did see the Royals up in Scotland last week, actually. There was a lot of activity after Rwanda, Scotland week, and we've got a lot to look forward to see them out and about I imagine in Scotland altogether having a bit of holiday time. So you think there will be some activity picture-wise. But yeah, they do normally take August off for a little bit of a break. And you never know, maybe me and you will get a break as well.
Yeah, I wouldn't go that far. I'm not gonna put my hopes on that one. One of the things to mention, that I really loved is, obviously the Queen's in Sandringham. She was driving out to see her horses, and there was a great picture of some dog walkers who were just like casually walking up the street. Have you seen them? And like look over at the car, and they're just like, oh, hang on, and the Queen's just sitting there with like a little, kind of, her and her driver have got like a little smile on their face, like, yeah. Which I love. But they always say that about Sandringham, isn't it? It's one of those places where they are just not normal. Let's not go that far, but they are just quite regularly seen out and about, which is lovely.
Yeah, a bit more relaxed, sort of on their own turf, as it were.
Yeah, you can't quite do that in London. I think a tourist or 1,000 would spot you if she just came out the front gates at the palace. Now, Prince Andrew, there's been another update on the kind of ongoing. Well, I say debate. It's not really debate because I know it's something that's upsetting a lot of people. But his refusal to speak to the FBI. What do we know about this?
Well, I think the pressure is mounting up once again, because after Ghislaine Maxwell was sentenced to 20 years for trafficking young girls to Jeffrey Epstein, I mean, there is an awful lot of pressure coming on top from lawyers representing further victims of Maxwell and Epstein, and certainly they have been calling for the FBI to ramp up the pressure on associates of those two. So who would that involve? A lot of people are saying, of course, that would involve Prince Andrew. Now, my understanding, I wrote a story last week, is that Prince Andrew has absolutely no intention of putting himself forward to speak to the FBI. And that goes against what he's been saying, all along. He said it in the Newsnight interview. He said it in statements post that interview and post him having to step back from his frontline royal duties. And certainly this would be a marked shift from his public statements. Now, he has paid £12 million to Virginia Giuffre to settle that case against her out of court, and he considers the matter closed. How much the FBI or other US investigators will agree with him on that point remains to be seen. But certainly he's not going to be putting himself forward. And I imagine his lawyers wouldn't want him to put himself forward either. So let's just wait and see. I think this is something that Andrew probably would have thought would have gone away, and it's probably going to raise its head again, I imagine, because the lawyers will definitely want another big beast to take down. And we've seen that with the Me Too movement, when other people started speaking out, then there was more evidence and more associates of these people had to be spoken to. So I don't think Prince Andrew is in the clear at all at the moment. So he may want to keep his head down and sort of not be still making noises about returning to frontline royal duties, because I think that is a long way off at the moment.
What is nice, because obviously there's always been the rumble in the background of kind of everything going on with Prince Andrew, but it's been really lovely the last couple of weeks, actually. I feel we've seen a lot of Princess Beatrice. She's been having a great time. She's been to Glastonbury. She went to the Rolling Stones at Hyde Park. She's had a really good time. Her and Edo have been kind of, I think, making the most of those royal passes, haven't they?
They have indeed, yeah. I always feel sorry for the girls. I mean, it was certainly Beatrice as well, because she was in the room. I mean, we've been reading quite a lot about the behind the scenes, what's been happening, because Sam McAllister, one of the producers who worked for Newsnight at the time and was one of the fixers who actually got the interview to happen, that we're still talking about all these years later. She's just released her book called Scoops. I think it's called Behind the Scenes of Some of the BBC's Biggest Tales. And she was, I mean, we knew quite a lot of this, but about how Andrew and his people, his private secretary, and indeed his daughter, who was in the room, thought that he'd done a remarkable job. I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous how they would have even thought that. But that tells you a lot about the people that Andrew has been sort of surrounding himself with, both then and now. And certainly, I don't think they've learned any lessons, have they? Because there's been an awful lot of talk about Andrew trying to position himself in a way that he would find a way back for himself for royal duties, and I think that it's just ridiculous. I don't think that's got any chance happening at the moment.
But again, it's really nice to see I say the girls, they're not girls, the successful women. And because Eugénie's been out as well, hasn't she? She's been doing, because there's obviously still the events rumbling on about her possibly moving to Portugal. And we've seen her this week. She's been at the United Nations Ocean Conference, which she's been posting some great photos on Instagram about it. I'm not sure if you've caught them all, but obviously we know that's something she's really invested in, and she's spoken a lot over the time. So just to give you some of the facts from this, so more than 100 countries have pledged to the 30 times 30 campaign, in which they aim to protect 30% of the world's oceans by 2030, which is really exciting. And Australia is committing 1.2 billion to preserve and restore the Great Barrier Reef. So some really interesting stuff there, and really good to see her really promoting the causes that she's passionate about.
Yeah, I think, they've had a rough time, haven't they? So the issue is, they probably want to be able to get on with their own lives and work on causes like this. And who could blame, to be honest?
Which is what I'm trying to do, move it away, and you keep bringing it back to Andrew.
You are doing the Lord's work. You are doing the Lord's work.
But one thing I will have to mention, and I say this with the nicest way possible because we've all been there. I'm there quite a lot because I'm always a nightmare with my bank card and I accidentally take the wrong one out. But Princess Beatrice had a bit of an awkward moment at Glastonbury, didn't she? Where she went up to the bar to buy some drinks and her card got declined or didn't go through or didn't work. And as I said, I'm a nightmare if I always take, you always take the wrong card out, or you do the wrong pin because you're thinking about the two cards in a muddle. And I did really feel for her there, didn't you?
Well, I did. I mean, I'm sure Ido came to the rescue and sort of managed to spare her blushes. But how unfortunate that you're getting people behind you and then they go to the newspapers. It is unfortunate, isn't it?
Yeah. Can you imagine turning away and being, oh God, like tutting at the front of the queue? What's the hold up? I want my pint, and her turning around and being like, oh, okay, it's probably not just that they don't have any money. It's probably just a bit of a technical thing. Now, what do we have coming up this week?
What do we have coming up? I mean, we've got, I do think we're going to see the Cambridges or even just Kate at Wimbledon. Wimbledon is reaching its climax. I mean, anything that does happen, to be honest, is going to get absolutely overtaken by the world of politics. So I think we may not be seeing too much royal news about, but definitely we've got the climax of Charles and Camilla's trip to Wales tomorrow, and then and so I imagine we might see a little bit of a pick-up before wind down before August. So watch this space.
And obviously, depending on what happens with Boris Johnson, if he does end up stepping down, it'll be another Prime Minister for the Queen, won't it? Because obviously she's worked with so many politicians over the years, so she'll have a new relationship to build there. And she obviously has it, it's her officially, it's her parliament, so keeping a close eye.
We're presuming that he steps down. I mean, he's got the skin of a rhinoceros.
I did say with a big if at the start.
Yeah, let's wait and see what happens.
Yeah, to be a fly on the wall in their conversations to find out what they all found of it. Lovely. Right, well, thank you so much for joining me, Russell, and thank you to everyone for listening this week. As always, we are on Twitter and Instagram @PodSave, and until next time.